Welcome to Rumble Book Club. Today we're going to talk about the 7 books every man should read before he dies. Number 1 is Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. In this book, the central premise is there is always an element of your life, of your job, of your career, of any situation that you have control over. So I think one of the problems with today's society is they obsess over the things they can't control. The color of their skin, who their boss is, the personalities around them, the individual decisions their children make. These are all things that you can't necessarily control. What you can control is how you react to them, the processes that you set to try to avoid some of these things from happening. Control what you can control. That's the central premise of this book, and I think it's empowering, particularly for young men today who are told that they have no power. There is always something you can do in every single situation. Book number 2 is The Thomas Sowell Reader. This is a collection of the writings of economist Thomas Sowell, who's with the Hoover Institute, and in this book, he talks about a number of different topics, everything from race and ethnicity to social issues, economics, biographical sketches, particularly of Karl Marx, random thoughts about common cultural topics, legal issues. What you get to see as a young man reading this is a variety of common hot button issues, but they're discussed in an intellectual, logical way where it's not flared up with emotion. Thomas Sowell is good at getting to the root of an idea, explaining it in a way that just the average person can read it and understand it, and then making sense of it in a dispassionate way where you're not getting too angry about a certain issue that strikes close to home. I think if more men had this style of thinking, this evidence-based way of thinking, we would have a much stronger society capable of electing better leaders into positions of power to make more logical-based decisions. The 3rd book on our list is Raising the Modern Day Knight by Robert Lewis. This book is all about what it is like for a father to effectively raise a young man into being a peer, another man capable of being functioning, contributing, compassionate, faith-based, who is also capable of raising his own children, starting his own family. And it's all about setting traditions, establishing order in a young man's life, because that's what they need. It's about the code that knights would typically live by and how it created not a perfect set of men, but men that were capable of starting families, raising young sons, building society from the ground up. And that is a staple in Western culture, is men passing down their knowledge to the next generation and building something better than what they inherited. And so this is about how you start that, how you plant those seeds of knightly behavior in your sons. The 4th book on our list is Texas Ranger, The Epic Life of Frank Hamer by John Bossnecker. And this book is the biography of one of the greatest heroes in Texas history. He was a Texas Ranger. He was one of the men responsible for taking down Bonnie and Clyde, one of the most notorious duos of killers in modern American history. He lived his life by a code of independence, of law and order. He truly believed in every gunfight that he ever got into and every lynch mob he stood in front of to protect the life of a prisoner. Every single time he was in a life or death situation, he truly believed that God was on his side, and he credits that to surviving such a long time in a brutal roughneck world of law and order back in the early 20th century. He was a rough man. He was flawed. He was a white supremacist, but that didn't stop him from literally risking his life on multiple occasions, stopping black prisoners from being killed by mobs that were out for blood. At one point, taking a prisoner that he was charged with protecting and hiding in the southeast Texas swamplands within feet of an angry mob with torches, weapons that were ready to kill not just the prisoner, but anyone protecting him. So this is a man that, despite his flaws, was willing to risk his life day in and day out for what he knew was right, which was law and order and justice. Now we're going to get into some classic fiction for book number 5. That's the Odyssey by Homer. This is an epic poem about the hero, the Greek hero Odysseus. In this book, in this epic poem, he has served his country as a warrior in battle through the previous epic poem, the Iliad. So he served his country. He has proven that he is faithful, that he is brave. He has courage to face the enemy. And now it's all about, let's get home. And over the course of 10 years, he is fighting tooth and nail, enduring tragedies, suffering, pain beyond imagination, just trying to fulfill his duty as a husband and father now and get home and protect his family. He's married a good woman who is the queen, who is fighting off multiple suitors at home who are trying to supplant him as the king because he's been gone for over 10 years now. So they're after her hand in marriage. She is putting them off, fulfilling her duty as a woman. Her son is fighting to protect his family as well at home. And his role as the father, he is fighting to fulfill that role. He's sailing home, makes multiple pit stops. It seems like every 2 steps forward he takes, 3 steps sweep him back, and yet he still persists. He still pushes forward, insisting that he fulfill all of his duties, not just the role of the warrior, the protector. Now he needs to be the provider. He needs to come home and be the husband and father that he's also meant to be. The 6th book on this list is another fiction. It's one of my all-time favorites, winner of the Pulitzer Prize, and that's The Road by Cormac McCarthy. This is a post-apocalyptic book in which the world has been reduced almost completely to ash, not a sign of life other than the people, and the people themselves are cold comfort. So you have a father and a son working their way on a road down south, trying to find something they can't even describe and can't even articulate, but they're going down south and they're having to constantly look over their shoulders for what human beings remain. They don't trust anyone because every person they have encountered so far has been part of these roving gangs of cannibalistic people. And other people that are just as desperate as they are, but they have picked an immoral way of survival, which is to eat and consume and destroy other signs of life around them to survive. And yet the father and son have insisted on maintaining at least a shred of the morals that started out before the boy was even born, at the fall of the world. And so this father is in a position where he is trying to sustain his son, trying to protect him, at times having to actually engage in borderline savage behavior. But at the same time, he is fighting for everything he's worth to preserve the innocence of his child. This is one of the greatest lessons of fatherhood I've ever read, and it's in a fiction book. You're seeing this man in action, protecting his son, but also preserving his child's innocence. Before we get to our last video, like this video and subscribe to our channel, Rumble Book Club. We're always happy to have another follower. The final book on this list, and the most important in my opinion, is the Holy Bible. Before you click off, hear my case about it first. Everything around you right now was built off of Western culture, and everything that the Western culture is credited to the Holy Bible, is credited to the faith, the most significant movement in human history. Man's contact with God is through the Bible. There is not a single cultural reference that you see around you. There's not a single thing that has been built around you that isn't revolving in some way around the Christian faith, around the Psalms, around wisdom, around the Gospels, around the Old Testament. All of these books, technically it's cheating because this isn't one book, it's a collection of over 70 books, but this piece of literature is the most significant thing ever written down in human history. And if you want to be a man of any kind of significance in this world, it's important to read the most significant collection of literature ever produced. If you believe in justice, if you believe in law and order, if you believe in mercy, if you believe in good and evil, morality, all of these things, it is all sourced from the good book. And that is our list of the top 7 books every man should read in his lifetime. If you enjoyed this list and you think it'll help you on your personal reading list, go out and buy my book as well, Before You Go, Life Advice for the Rising Generation. A lot of the ideas that went into this book, which is meant to provide mental frameworks for success, daily habits for success, a lot of these were gained from this list of 7 books that I showed you today. Thanks for watching, everybody, and go read something.